So the BYU student newspaper, The Universe, just came out with an advocacy piece for abortion. It's very interesting in the environment we're in right now with the election coming up in just a couple of weeks. How did this piece get through and why are they allowing it? Now, this episode is brought to you by Scripture Notes. You guys all know that I use Scripture Notes for all of my study of the gospel. I also have used it for my book. You can take a look here at some of the things I've been looking at here and the different chapters and search history and my collection notes recently I've been looking at. Just wrapping up the end of my book here. And this has been an incredible tool for me to use for pulling together the references, the information that I need for this book. Go to scripturenotes.com, register, and just try it out. See how well it works and all of the functionality and benefits that it gives you. scripturenotes.com. Here we go. All right, welcome to Cwic Show. My name is Greg Mattson, and I am your host. In this episode, we're talking about the abortion article from the student newspaper of BYU, the Daily Universe. The question is how did this get through? Why was it let through? This is an advocacy piece supporting abortion. Now, some may push against that, but we'll look through it. You make your own decision. And it's very interesting in the environment we're in right now. We just had the church come out on the newsroom going over political neutrality and abortion, right? They're affirming their position. Let's see what this says here. Just looking at the date here, it's October 8th, so just a couple of weeks ago. Church reiterates positions on political neutrality, civil discourse, and abortion. Let's look at the last paragraph here. It says, with respect to several current U.S. state ballot initiatives relative to abortion and sanctity for life, right? This is now at a state level, which is where I believe this should be. The church affirms that its position on abortion remains unchanged. So it has always been this way. As states work to enact laws related to abortion, church members may appropriately choose to participate in efforts to protect life and to preserve religious liberty. So the piece from the BYU Daily Universe does exactly the opposite. And before I get into the piece here, let's also go to the official position on abortion by the church. Here it is. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes in the sanctity of human life. Therefore, the church opposes elective abortion for personal or social convenience and counsels its members not to submit to, perform, encourage, pay for, or arrange for such abortions. And then it gives its exceptions, which it has done for a very long time on rape or incest, if it's determined that the life or health of the mother is in serious jeopardy, that a competent physician determines that the fetus has severe defects that will not allow the baby to survive beyond birth. And then it goes to the point of saying even these exceptions do not automatically justify abortion. Abortion is a most serious matter. And again, reiterates what it said in the press release. The church's position on this matter remains unchanged. As states work to enact laws related to abortion, church members may appropriately choose to participate in efforts to protect life and preserve religious liberty. Yet now we have a piece from the student newspaper coming out of BYU that does the exact opposite. It's shocking how things change. Let's take a look here. Here we have the Daily Universe. The title of the piece is Utah Women Rally for Reproductive Rights, Voter Action, right? Because this is going to be a rally that was held in Salt Lake at the Capitol about, basically it's get out the vote, right? That's what they're doing here. It's getting out the vote. Let's take a look at the beginning here and look at the language that is given in this article. It says, remember, this is in the BYU student newspaper. Green Wave Utah, an organization, hosted a rally on Utah's Capitol on October 12th, empowering women to vote. I don't know how that empowers women to vote, but to vote and stand for their rights to reproductive care. You're going to read this, and the tone of this is as if you're going to find it in Vice or Slate magazine. And let me just back up on this for a second here, because, look, I don't mind, I don't care if there's something here that is political in the discourse or the communications of the student magazine, even if it's on the side of the Democrats versus the side of the Republicans. That's fine. And they actually cover both sides, at least to some degree. But this is a separate issue. This is a church issue. This is like coming out and supporting a rally against the family or against religious liberty. And yet here it is. So this would have had to have gone not only from the student that authored this article, but it had to have gone through an approval process at the Daily Universe and maybe above that. I'm sure somebody in the administration must, I would imagine, see some of these articles and they must come across their desk. Okay, a few more pieces here. On Capitol Hill, they welcomed attendees to hear from local politicians and advocates. Members of the community showed their support for women's reproductive rights in the state of Utah. Darlene McDonald, author, Democrat National Committee woman, and social justice advocate, right? You can get the flavor of this, spoke about the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, stating that it is not just an issue of the right to abortion. That it's not just the right to abortion, it's also get out the vote. There's also a quote from a BYU alum and president of Young Democrats of Utah, Emma Fetzer, who encouraged women to unite when their rights are under attack. Fetzer asked attendees to talk to at least 3 people today and ask them if they have a plan to vote, right? So again, that's really what this is. It's get out the vote. And it's just odd that you would have a piece like this in a BYU newspaper that is advocating for something the church very specifically preaches against, but also in a time of an election, something that is basically advocating to get out the vote to one side or the other. They also cited Caroline Gleich, I hope I got that name pronounced right, stating the following: our current leaders have failed us. Now she's running for U.S. Senate, so she's talking about, I guess, Romney and Lee here, right? They are taking our state and our country in the wrong direction. Well, first of all, not the state. They're not state representatives in that sense. They're not dealing with state issues. And we can't keep sending the same kind of political leaders if we want a different outcome. It's up to us now to be the leaders that we want to see. And then she says this, which is kind of interesting. It says, we need more women in the rooms where these decisions are made. And there is ample research that shows that when women lead, everybody benefits. We will not tolerate going backwards. Well, okay, first of all, you see this argument all the time. We need more women. Okay, here's my first question. Why? Why do we need more women? I do think there's a benefit for having women involved, by the way. I think that sometimes it could be a lot of women. It could be a few women. It could be no women, though, sometimes. I care about the outcome. That's what I'm voting for. I'm not voting for genitalia. I'm voting for the outcome. So if there's a woman that is voting for what I agree with as a citizen, going against a man who is voting for things and pushing policy that I do not agree with, of course I'm going to vote for the woman. So it's not a matter of genitalia, it's a matter of policy. It's a matter of ideology to some degree and worldview. Not to mention the fact that women have the loudest voice in voting. More women vote than men. When you take the entire compilation of the votes, of the U.S. votes, you get a higher percentage of that aggregation, which is cast by women. They have more of a voice. They participate more than men. So you can say that the majority has chosen where we are today, and that is women. And then there's just more about getting out the vote here. Stephanie McKinnon, founder of Green Wave Utah, a recently founded organization founded by local Utahns inspired by representatives to get involved and to take action, standing for women's reproductive rights, was pleased with how the rally turned out and encouraged anyone looking to get involved to come to the Women's March on November 2nd at Washington Square in Salt Lake City. Okay, again, this is an advocacy piece. It's about voting. But this is a piece that is completely 180 degrees from where the church stands. I just don't know how something like this would have gotten through, even 10, 15 years ago. But apparently, by those who approve these things, they support it. Let's go back here and look at a search on abortion on the church's website here. You can pull up abortion and you see all of the different things here that go back for years and years, and they're also very recent, right? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes in the sanctity of human life. Therefore, the church opposes elective abortion. Although a common practice in many cultures around the world, abortion is contrary to the will and commandment of God. Here's something from a church manual, right? Abortion is evil, stark, and real and repugnant, which is sweeping over the earth. We can go to President Nelson, then Elder Nelson from the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, on something he wrote in the Liahona called Abortion, an Assault on the Defenseless. And I recommend you go and read this. This is from October 2008. He's also spoken about abortion at General Conference. So what are the students and the managers and the administrators involved in this thinking when they decide they're going to put this out in the student magazine, the student paper? Now, again, to be fair, as I pull this up today, I just want to show you here, they've got Trump serves up McDonald's. You've probably seen all the memes online about this whole thing. It was a big, huge PR coup for President Trump. And they've got it up here, right, as a CNN news source. So they put this up. So I'm not saying that this is all one-sided. Again, what I'm saying, and it's not an issue of being political. This is not the church. This is a student magazine. And so I don't know that while you would probably want to be politically neutral, you may want to, you're going to have journalists here students that want to be journalists talking about the election. And so here they're covering another side of this. The issue is abortion and going against the church. Look what it says here at the bottom of the page on the BYU Universe, of the BYU Daily Universe. Here's About Us. The Daily Universe is an educational lab tied to the curriculum of the journalism sequence in the BYU School of Communications and is committed to the mission of BYU and its sponsoring institution, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Well, committed up to a point, it appears, until the church crosses the line on a certain agenda. Then they're going to push back and push something through anyway. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch on is the political dynamics of what's happening between the Republican and Democrat parties and the shift in those demographics. We've talked about this a little bit, but you have a number of individuals that are Democrats that are kind of looking at this whole woke stuff and just going, I cannot believe what is going on. This is beyond science. This is beyond any kind of reality. I'm done with this. And then they become typically something kind of neutral. Some of them maybe then start supporting the Republicans. You look at people like Bill Maher and Jonathan Haidt and Steven Pinker, right? I'm not saying that they're Trump people, but they feel abandoned by the platform, the new platform of the Democrat Party. And there are several individuals that are like that have kind of an Enlightenment, classical liberal worldview that no longer find that on the left. Free speech, right? Freedom of speech is an example. That has moved from an issue on the left. It is now an issue that is fought for over on the right. And then on the other side, you have kind of these, I'm going to call them Romneyites, which are, you have previous Congressman Jeff Flake from Arizona. You have the Mesa mayor, right? Mostly a majority Latter-day Saint city of, I believe we're pushing around 800,000 over there now, who was at the Kamala Harris rally just a few weeks ago. And you also have board members there of the city, council individuals, town council, that also are putting out ads here locally that are Republican that are now switching over to Kamala. You have, of course, Mitt Romney and several other, and I'm just going to say it, middle to upper income Latter-day Saints that are kind of part of that group, not politically in terms of being in politics, but rather kind of following the same mentality. that are now moving over to the left. And what's interesting is tracking these individuals. I have friends like this, that you track these individuals and all of a sudden they're not just like just anti-Trump, because that's the primary reason, right? But they're now starting to adopt piece by piece the Democrat platform because this is their new circle. And so you see them on issues like abortion start to open up and even start to support it. Those that never agreed with the transitioning of minors from one gender to another now starting to support it. And so it's going to be very interesting to see the fallout of all of this, the shifting from both sides, how that's going to affect Latter-day Saints politically, and how many that are making this switch are going to remain in that switch, or are they going to return home politically? So many moving pieces right now in our culture, as there are so many changes, so many new ideas, so many things coming up that we never would have dreamed of just 10, 15 years ago. Thanks for listening.